The artist draws the new coin. From that drawing, a plaster cast will be fashioned. That plaster cast is placed on one end of a reducing lathe. On the other end of the reducing lathe is a smaller piece of metal where the image is going to be engraved. The tracing process and the impulses of the tracing process going over the plaster cast will leave an etching on the smaller piece of metal on the other side of the lathe. When it's done, it becomes what's known as a hub. If you look straight down on it, it looks just like a regular coin. Now this hub is going to be pounded into another piece of metal. Now this other piece of metal is going to be softened by the heat, and the hub is going to be pounded in it more than once to leave as crisp and clear an image as possible. This is what's known as a die. The die is a complete inverse and reverse image of the coin that's going to be made. Think of it like taking a quarter and pushing it into a blob of Play-Doh. That's the same result that you're going to get from the die. Now there's a die that's going to be made for the front of the coin, the obverse, and then you'll need to do the same process again for the reverse of the coin. So you'll have an obverse die and a reverse die. What happens is that on a conveyor belt, these dies are going to strike coin blanks, and they're going to create your finished product, your coin. The United States Mint has been producing coins for well over 200 years and has to be considered the most accurate manufacturer of any product. So as a result, when an error happens, it's scarce and it's valuable. So what type of errors occur? You can have a doubling of the die, which occurs during the striking of the hubs onto the die. So if you look onto the coin, you'll see a doubling of the numbers, you'll see a doubling of the lettering, you'll see some doubling of the devices. Some notable double dies would be the 1955 and 1972 double die Lincoln pennies. You'll also have overstrikes. You'll have one date stamped on top of another. For example, your 1942 over 41 Mercury dime. And in addition, you also have overstrikes of one mint mark over the other. In addition to mint errors, there's also different varieties. For example, although a mint mark would be in the same general location, it might be slightly tilted or a little further or closer to the rim of the coin, and there can also be some differences in the styling of lettering of the coin, which also helps in the authentication process. So this is a thumbnail of your minting process and what happens when you get errors and mint varieties. Errors, they can be scarce to rare, they can be valuable, and mint varieties are also useful when you're determining a genuine coin from a counterfeit. Here's a couple examples of some more recent double die varieties. Here's a 1984 double die. If you look closely at Lincoln's ear, you'll see a doubling of the earlobe. This is a high-grade circulated, so this here probably has a cash value of, let's say, about $20, but these are still available to be found in circulation. Another example of a more recent double die Lincoln cent variety. Again, this is something, if you look close enough and go through your pocket change on a regular basis, this is something else you can find as well. This is a 1995 double die Lincoln penny. You're going to see a doubling of the date, and you'll also see a doubling of the lettering. The Liberty is doubled, and you can notice some doubling in God We Trust. Probably the same cash value on a high-grade circulated. Here's another doubled, well actually a mint mark overstamp that I found in circulation, believe it or not. This is a 1954 S over D. The S mint for San Francisco is clear, but if you look closely at the S, underneath you'll notice the bottom portion of the letter D, Denver. This is a S over D 1954 Jefferson nickel. again in high grade circulated. This will be an example of just a mint variety. It's not an error coin. In the year 1858, which was the third year that they made flying eagles, the second official year, because the first year, 1856, they only made 1,000 what you would call pattern coins, which are very rare. But in 1858, there were two varieties, an 1858 small date and an 1858 large date. Now, this actually will not be too unusual, because if you look at the AM in the word America, you'll notice that the A and the M are separated, which gives it the distinction of being the small date variety. If it was a large date, the A and the M would be joined. They both would have the same value, but again, this is just an example of a mint variety. Well, I hope you found this information useful. There's a lot of mint errors out there, a lot more expensive varieties that you'll have to get from the coin dealer, but I just wanted to show you some examples and also show you that although scarce, there are some varieties that you can still find in your pocket change, so it's a good idea to keep looking. So we'll talk again, and I think the next time we talk, we'll start going over some resource materials, some guidebooks that'll help us identify and determine the variety and the oddity of coins. Until then, thank you and goodbye.